Hello, my chicklets. Thank you for stopping by. Today we will be reading day 18 in our May Flowers series, Kalanchoe, Persistence. Again, please make sure to read the description for any content warnings as well as information about the story and artist. Thirsty in a way water couldn't satiate. Hungry in a way food could never touch. Patton buried his face in the stuffed animal he had been clinging to since he had gotten home. Vampires were a myth. At least, that's what he had believed. But now his whole world was being rocked, and not in a good way. Patton closed his eyes tight, trying to block out the memory of the attack. He had been walking home, a route he had walked a bunch of times before. It should have been safe. At first, he thought he was being mugged. He would have given them his money, but then came the pain, the terror, and then the darkness. He hadn't expected to wake up after that, but when he had, he could smell it. Blood. There was blood all around him, people walking around with fully operational circulatory systems that pumped blood through their veins, and Patton was hungry. Shaking his head, Patton went to nibble on his lip, trying to get rid of some of the anxious energy. Maybe he was just hallucinating. He was actually in a coma in the hospital after the attack. One of his fangs sunk into the soft flesh of his lip, and he whimpered in pain. This couldn't be just a dream. If vampires were real, what was he going to do? He didn't want to possibly hurt one of his friends. Honestly, the thought of hurting anyone was more than he could handle. He couldn't go without blood, though. He would starve. Or worse, in his hunger, he would hurt someone without regard for their life. Patton whimpered again, looking at his own blood, far too thick and unsatisfying. The other option was to drink from animals, but that idea was just as unappealing as the first. He couldn't imagine holding an animal in his arms as he sucked away its life. Maybe he should give up. Find a way to end it all. He had lived a good life so far. "Patton, I heard some distressing sounds in there. Are you quite all right?" a voice called from the door. "I'm fine." His voice was much too high, but he prayed Logan would believe him, even if just this once. His prayers went unanswered. "You are displaying obvious signs of duress. I would like to come in and check on you." "Please don't," he whined, and there was silence from beyond the door. Patton held his breath, realizing that he didn't necessarily need to breathe, and while that was cool, it didn't help the rising panic that welled inside him. He let out another squeak of fear and surprise. "Apologies, Patton, but we have reached the threshold where my concern outweighs my care for social constructs." Despite Patton's protests, Logan opened the door, allowing the hallway light to escape into the dark room. Unwillingly, the kind man let a hiss out of his throat at the new intrusion, hiding behind his stuffy. "Apologies again," much quieter now. "Do you have a migraine?" "No." He should tell Logan. He was the smartest of the four who lived together, and he did his best to be kind and understanding, even if it was hard for him. It wouldn't even be that hard, he just had to blurt it out. But convincing him it wasn't a prank would be much harder. "May I feel your forehead?" Patton slowly lowered the stuffed toy, watching as Logan put a hand on his forehead. It was so close, and his blood smelt so good. It would only take one quick movement. Vampires had super speed and strength, right? It would just take one easy movement. "Your forehead is concerningly cold." He snapped back into reality, seeing his friend in front of him, not something to devour, and he shivered at the thought. "Let me get a thermometer. We may need to take you to the hospital." There was worry laced in every word, and Patton wanted to cry. "I know what's wrong." "Really?" Logan sat back down as he looked at Patton expectantly. You aren't going to believe me, Elle. Considering the duress on your face and the fact that you are a terrible actor, I will keep an open mind. Patton swallowed. It did nothing for the hunger in his stomach or the lump in his throat. I got turned into a vampire. Logan was silent, and Patton knew that he didn't believe him. He said he wanted me to experience what it was being a monster. I'm so hungry, and food isn't helping, and I just thought about biting you, but you're my friend. He let out another sad whimper, hiding his face once again. Show me your wrist. What? Show me your wrist. I told you I would keep an open mind, and I am trying to, so please show me your wrist so that I can check your pulse. Patton nodded and slowly showed Logan his wrist. He could feel the warm fingers on his pulse point, but he was fairly sure he no longer had a pulse. Interesting. Let me get Virgil. Why? Was Logan going to kill him? That wouldn't be too bad. At least he wouldn't hurt anyone. As vampires are mythological, or so I thought, I did not spend much time researching them. However, Virgil has an interest in the occult. He will be able to provide us better insight on this predicament. You aren't just going to kill me? Kill you? Patton, what are you talking about? You are our friend, and I have no desire to murder anyone. But I'm not even human now. That doesn't change anything. Human, vampire, or even fairy. Logan scoffed at the notion. You are our friend. The only thing that will change is we will help you figure out what this means for you. He brightened at that, just a little bit. You would do that for me? Of course. And you would do the same for any of us. Patton let out a sigh as Logan left the room. Because if his friends were there by his side, he could probably figure this out. Patton might not know how he was going to survive as a vampire, but his friends had his back, and he could persist. Thank you again for stopping by. This was day 18 in our Mayflower series, Kalanchoe. I hope you all have a wonderful day.